place to promote the growth of Tigres in English through analysis, discussions, interviews, and more. Welcome to the La U Times podcast. Hello. Hola, amigos. Welcome back to La U Times, the place where we talk about Tigres in English. And we got a three-man weave tonight. Our lovely host, Arnoldo, is living his best life in España. So we're a little bit short on numbers tonight, but we're still going to make it through. I'm Dennis. I'm QB2 apparently on this show. I'm most of the time or all the time the producer, but tonight I'll be hosting. And I'm joined by my two trusty sidekicks, Alfred, currently in Nashville, and Edgar with me here in DFW. How are we, guys?
Doing good, man.
Doing good. Glad to be back with you guys as always, ready to talk about Tigres. It's been a good couple days.
It has. I feel like it's been a good last week or so. Lots to discuss tonight. Yeah. Last good 8 days. We have lots to discuss tonight. Mostly around the men's team with all the stuff that's been happening. But feminine, we got some stuff to discuss with them as well. Just a lot to get to. So if you're joining us live right now, thanks for being here. At some point, I'm trying to get this set up, but at some point we may also start live streaming to Instagram. I'm just going to figure it out in time for tonight's episode, but maybe for next week. We'll see. But we're still on Twitter and YouTube. If you're watching right now, thanks for being here. Tell everybody to join and come flood the chat because we love to interact with you guys. Edgar, you have a very lovely outline that we're going to follow tonight, starting with 65th anniversary celebrations. Let's kick it off with that.
That is right. Last week, Tigres celebrated their 65th anniversary with the club, and lots of good throwback photos, lots of commemorative photos were posted on social media. And, of course, a big celebration was held before the match against Querétaro. But one of the biggest talking points for us is going to be the incorporation of some faces we hadn't seen in a while in some of these social media posts. I think we should start there.
And some faces missing.
Faces missing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the right place to start is to talk about the video. If you don't know, listener or viewer, the team put out a video like right before kickoff on Friday against Querétaro on all the social channels. And by golly, it's an incredible video. If you haven't watched it yet, you should. It kind of just like perfectly like tells the history of the club over the last 65 years, mainly on the men's side. But then there's like a real nice like 15, 20 seconds talking about the women's team and the success that they've had. Lots of faces in there, like we just kind of mentioned. Lots of faces that we hadn't seen in a while. Lots of faces that we thought that were going to be in there that aren't. Some interesting people kind of thrown in there. Alfred, I'll kick it over to you. Just overall thoughts on the video, and who do you think was missing?
Well, first of all, props to, everyone involved in the creation of this video. I actually got followed by apparently the producer, or at least that's what he claims to be on his Twitter. His name is Pablo Leva, who is also the producer of the mini-series of docu-series of Tigres, La Historia Perfecta from ViX. And apparently he also produced this video himself. I asked a question on Twitter, and then he answered, and that's how I found out about this guy. But man, what a great video! Like short, concise, but like they summarized our whole history with like few words and just all the right faces, all the right things to say. Even a couple of funny moments, with Martinoli there reminding how Avilés, sent the ball to Tamaulipas, and then a little bit of sad memories with the Roberto Hernandez Jr. Headset on his desk, and we also saw, I think, the cap of one of the biggest fans that was fairly recognized in the stand, Soriano, that also passed away around that same time. It was very emotional, and then they also had, like you said, a very short part of the video was dedicated to Amazonas, but man, did they come hard. Like they went on and counted their titles. They were like the best of Mexico, period. Man, it was on point, on point.
Edgar, anybody that surprised you that made an appearance in the video?
So not an appearance, but we finally got the name drop for Tuca Ferretti, who, had kind of been pushed back ever since he exited with the club. Nasty exit, by the way. That was really surprising, but I mean, regardless, he's the coach who's won the most titles for Tigres. You have to include him in the history, and I'm glad that they did.
And that leads me to my next point is that, and I totally understand why they did not incorporate him. But to me, one of the bigger missing pieces of that video was Siboldi, knowing his history, being a part of the team that was in the second division and got promoted back up, and then, winning the championship for us 2 years ago. I get it. The wounds are still really fresh from his dismissal, but boy, oh boy, I mean, it's hard to ignore his significance in the history of the club, but that's just me. But yeah, I mean, beautifully produced, high quality, like all the things, man. Like it was awesome. We have our first comment of the night. Soldado de I love. Oh, I love
Listening to
the
it.
picture. The profile picture is incredible. That is
Yeah.
amazing.
I
I
love
love that. Shout out to you, my friend. That's amazing. Yeah, 10 out of 9.5 out of 10 for me. No notes besides Siboldi, but just everything about it, the kind of just the editing of it was really cool, the camera quality was really cool. I love that they showed it at the stadium and everybody got a kick out of the Martinoli bit that you just mentioned, Alfred. That was super cool. But just like a great way to put a stamp on this 65th anniversary, and the club did such a good job on socials all day, kind of just like pushing the fact that it was the 65th anniversary and the big graphic that they put out with all the current and former players. I know there was some faces missing from there. Who were the ones that we were talking about in the chat the other day? Remind me.
So, and obviously, going back and forth between the video and the images. So obviously Siboldi wasn't mentioned in the video, but he was included in some of the images. And then, vice versa, there was, some uh, speculation that maybe Tuca wasn't going to be included, and then he was. Obviously there's always going to be people that are going to be upset, and there's always going to be, people that are going to be calling out. But I mean, in the end, it's such a rich history, and you have so many people that have contributed to being to who Tigres is at this moment that it's difficult to always be able to mention everybody. I know as far as the feminine side, some people were upset that Katy Martinez wasn't included on there. Of course, there's obvious reasons as to why she wasn't neither on the video nor on the picture. She's currently at the Rayados. So but I mean, in the end, I still think that it was a very, very good job done by the club, by social media, by the CM, and then also topping it up with the whole drop back that they did at the stands. I think that was pretty cool as well. Which some people are upset that it was in black and yellow, but I mean, I get it. It needed to stand out. For us to be able to see that 65 well displayed among the crowd. I wanted to ask you guys, because obviously you guys are a little bit younger and maybe not as familiarized with like the whole history of Tigres, like how you felt that summarized it for you, or did you, do you feel like that you, even though it was short and concise, that you still learned something, or that something came up that's like, oh yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, for me, like I really paid attention to the first, like, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds, talking about like the early days, like right before the first championship in the 70s and all that. That was really like cool to like kind of see that laid out really simply, really well done. Like I kind of have like a basic idea of it just off of research, but just to like have that reminder and to see it, you know,
With
portrayed
pictures.
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super cool. Yeah. Edgar.
Yeah, so I was pretty familiar with most of what was in the video, but I will say, like, it is a very nice reminder to have that brought back. A lot of times, when even with fans who are older or younger, a lot of times the talking points start in 2011 onward. So it is really nice to, kind of remember, hey, There was so much more history before then. Mentioning the Libertadores run as well before Tuca, that was really nice as well.
Mentioning the obviously the relegation as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's 65 years of history. It's not 14 years of history, right? Like I think that you put it really well there, Edgar. I also want to mention real quick the little museum that they had outside the stadium. That was
Oh, yeah.
cool. Big fan of that. Kind of hope that they have that again when I go down there this weekend. Probably not, but it'd be really cool. Big fan of that. Big fan of the little like, they had some players from the old championship teams like bring out the trophies for a
Oh,
little
that was cool
pregame
too.
thing before the game on
Yeah.
Friday. That was super cool. Yeah, I think Friday specifically, they did such a good job in all facets, from socials to at the game, atmosphere, during the game, before the game. Like they did such a good job. Even like picking the white jersey, was a little bit different, but also like they were really pushing that logo, like the old logo. And that's the jersey that has it. So I think they were super good with their like planning and their intentionality behind it, and the club deserves a lot of props, I think, for celebrating the 65 years well. So
Yeah.
any other thoughts about that?
All good.
All good. Next up.
Up next, Tigres versus Querétaro. So, of course, in honor of celebrating the game, in honor of the 65th celebration, we had to follow it up with the game. Guido Pizarro's first home game at the Volcán, 1-0 victory against Querétaro. Let's go ahead and break it down. Alfred, you provided us with a graphic of the lineup. What are your thoughts on it?
So obviously, I mean, we saw a repeat of basically the lineup that we saw against Cincinnati last week. We did obviously expect maybe somebody to be back from injury, but no, it was too short of a time, and none of them were able to get back. It was very interesting to see how obviously Purata pretty much figured as, I guess, the centerpiece of this whole new tactic that Pizarro has, where the game starts at his feet, from the back. So obviously we had the back line, which you could say is a back line of 3 or back line of 5, starting with Javier Aquino as a wing back. Then you have Joaquin, Purata, Angulo, all 3 of those forming the center back, and then Chuy Garza, the left wing back. And then obviously seeing in the middle, Rafael Carioca almost paired up side to side with Bruneta. Bruneta was the one that was kind of like falling back, while Cordova and Flores were a little bit kind of just behind Ibanez in that top 5. And it pretty much seems like this is what Pizarro is going to be going for. Like, we could have seen a different lineup if in case, he wanted to put in maybe Parra and he wanted to bring in maybe Fulgencio or Antuna. But no, he went with the exact same lineup. It's like he wants them to, get used to the fact that they're going to be playing, this same formation.
Yeah, I was we talked about it in our group thread, but it's good to bring it up now. Really interesting with Brunetta being kind of the sort of like deep lying playmaker. You kind of see that sometimes in football, like, and sometimes big clubs will do that. They'll like kind of drop, their big playmakers a little bit deeper to try to like, have more long balls, try to catch high lines out by surprise, try to break down low blocks in a different way. I've seen that done with like De Bruyne, for example. So to see Brunetta doing that with his ability to kind of like break lines with his passing is really interesting. I wonder if that's the play long term, because obviously this lineup has worked to a degree the last couple games, but this is not our A team by any means. We're still missing quite a bit of pieces, and I know we're getting a few back for the Cincinnati game tomorrow, but who knows when we'll have everybody back at our disposal. So for the time being, I like it, and I think it's just it's interesting to see how long that experiment lasts, because Brunetta was having success higher up the field to start the season under Paunovic. And now we're seeing Sebastian kind of take over that responsibility higher up. And I think I get why that's the play, because he can kind of, with his dribbling, with his ability to take guys 1v1 and have more success, I feel like, than Brunetta sometimes. I kind of get why he's more like up there as opposed to Brunetta. I don't know. It's really interesting. It worked, I don't know if it works against the big teams, but it worked against Querétaro. So, um, really interesting. You mentioned Purata. Um, we got to talk about Ibanez, right? Like, he scored again, 2 games in a row. I know you wrote the question probably, Edgar, but why don't you answer it yourself? Like, do you think he's back? Do you think we're seeing Nico back at his best, or we still got to pump the brakes on that a little bit?
So I think we're very, very close. Depending on what happens in the next 2 matches, I think that'll solidify the answer. But it's not bad, A rival, with all due respect to Querétaro, a rival like Querétaro, it should have come easy, and it looks like it did. Against Cincinnati, that was more impressive, I'll say that. So if it repeats again against Cincinnati, hopefully coming up here soon, I think we can say he's back. I think the change in management was definitely something that's really going to impact his confidence moving forward. And I'm here for it. We did talk a big mess about him. He looked like he wasn't there. Maybe the coaching staff just really had a lot to do with it.
Alfred, how would you want to like piggyback off of that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with Edgar. I think it all comes down to confidence and the support that apparently he feels from Pizarro is different than what he was getting out of Pano and his team. Um, you can just see it in the way that he's actually running for the balls, the way that he's actually is jumping and trying to find balls in the air when the crosses are coming in. He wasn't doing that before, and we were calling him out in this pod or on Twitter for just, pretty much seeming like he had forgotten how to play, like he didn't want to be here, where he was wasting his opportunity with all this time that Gignac was out, for him to be the player that we wanted him to be, or that he needed to be. And now, at least in these last 2 games, he's showing us something. He's showing us a little bit of what we knew that he could bring to the game. And if obviously, Gignac is still semi-injured or still not going to be 100% to come back, he's still going to get that opportunity tomorrow, possibly Saturday as well. And with his confidence now, not to the sky, but it's getting there. I think we're going to see the best version of Nico. So what else could we want? That's exactly what we need.
And to get it at home too. I mean, it has been almost a year since he had scored. Well, pretty much in
April
general.
of last year was
But
the last time that he had scored at home.
Yeah.
So
11
to
months.
hear everyone chanting his name again, obviously it must have been special for him, but it's bringing that connection back with the fan base.
Exactly. And that's the kind of what's the term I'm looking for? Output. That's the kind of output that you need from your number 9. It doesn't matter if it's Ibanez or it's Gignac. And for the time being, it's Ibanez's job because of APG's injury and his age. And so I know that this is all very basic, but like, he's doing what he's supposed to do. And it's nice to see the coaching staff putting him, I think, in better positions to be able to capitalize on that. I've noticed that we're putting more numbers into the box a lot of times. Like, it doesn't feel like he's isolated as much as he kind of was at some points during the Paunovic era. And so he's able to like capitalize off rebounds and deflections and stuff. And I think he's positionally has been better the last couple games than he was previously. Like, just getting into the right spots, making good runs, reading the game better. And again, I think a lot of that has to do with the growing confidence, but also the fact that Guido is probably like putting him in good positions with the setup of the team, and just reminding him like, hey, like, you're a good player. Like, we spent a lot of money on you. Like, you're a good player. Like, let's go for it. So kudos to him, because we need him. We do. As much as we like to criticize him for for when he doesn't score or for when he's not at his A game. Like the truth is, like we need him. We need him to score goals, and so we're gonna root for him, or we're gonna hope that he can provide that as best as possible. To me, the man of the match was Aquino, like by far. I mean, I thought his movement, his passing, his leadership, just bonkers that game. Absolutely bonkers. I don't think he did anything wrong. Like I don't remember him misplacing a pass or being in a bad spot positionally. Like I thought he was absolutely tremendous. Any other standouts from the game that you guys want to make note of?
I think Purata. I mean, obviously, even after the first game, a lot of people on Twitter, maybe some of us or some people in our chats, were criticizing Purata, and rightfully so. I mean, he had his mistakes, and obviously the goal against Cincinnati that we conceded was partially his mistake as well. But he was coming back after a long hiatus of not getting any opportunities, where now he's basically getting the confidence of the responsibility of building up, starting the build up of the game for Pizarro. Pizarro is basically handing him the keys and saying, "Here, you're quarterback. The ball's going to go through you." And I believe in this Querétaro game, he had 100% improvement from what we saw at Cincinnati. And he's not quite there yet. Like he's not there like where we need him to be. But if he continues to improve on his play, I mean, this might be the comeback player of the year, honestly.
Well, and think about what Guido said in that interview with I can't remember who it was, but the video that's been circulating the last day or so of Guido saying like, I think he has the potential to make the national team. That's something, right? Like for your manager to like think of you that highly enough to where he thinks that you can make la selección. Like, I don't think Guido would say that about anybody, right? Like, I tend to believe that he does see that potential in him, and so this kind of run of confidence that he's given him with the starts and his play, like maybe it does lead to a sort of comeback player of the year sort of thing from him. It's really interesting to see him just completely shunned out the last few months and then back into the fray the last week, and slowly but surely kind of getting back to, his best. Edgar, anybody else you want to highlight?
Yeah, so I agree with you guys. Purata definitely had a much better game than before. Yeah, those were my standouts. So really, Purata, Ibanez. I like what we saw from Nahuel, but that's standard. Back to the.
What about Cordova and Bruneta?
Bruneta, maybe it's just like he did well in his position. I'm not gonna say he didn't. It was definitely something different for me to experience as a fan. It's like I have my doubts as to how long this will work. I think it was, as Dennis mentioned, works great against Querétaro. Let's see what happens against another rival. I'm interested to see how we move along with Cordova, though. I mean, I hope that that's another player that we get back to that full potential, like that 2023 run that we had with him. And hopefully he does earn that contract renewal that everyone's been talking about. Is it worth renewing or not? I want him to be, and this is his golden opportunity to show it.
I thought he was good on
Yep.
Friday, too. Chat, where are you at, first of all? Second of all, who do you all think played good on Friday? Any standouts for y'all? Drop it in the comments, and we'll throw them up on the screen if you're watching live. Let's talk about the subs. We had 4 subs. Vigon came in. Antuna came in. Fulgencio came in. I know Parra came on at halftime to kind of fulfill some of those youth minutes. Speaking of the youth minutes, how many are we at? Do we know? Have we seen the tracker lately? Because I haven't seen it from the league in a little bit. I'll have to look it up. But thoughts on those subs and the timing of them?
So I haven't checked youth minutes recently. I know we're still at the bottom as far as all 18 teams in the league. But I enjoyed that.
We were like above 300 now, above getting close to 400, something like that.
Oh, I got it right here. I got it. 440. We're the bottom, but we're not like in a horrific spot.
Yeah.
Yet.
I mean, but technically speaking, though, you still need to have Parra in each game of the following, what is it, 5 games left, 6 games left. So it's unfortunate because we do have some important games coming. We obviously have the America, we have the Clásico. Who else? I think even Toluca in there. No, did we already play Toluca? Who else do we have?
Uh, man, I can't remember.
Hold on. Let me bring it up here.
Pumas is at the very end of the season, and I know that that can sometimes be a crazy game. We've already
Right.
played
Because
So we
Chivas.
have,
15th.
yeah. So we have Santos, then America, Puebla, Rayados, Pachuca, and then Pumas. So yeah, I mean, so obviously America and Monterrey is where you think, oh my God, I mean, are we really gonna have Parra, be in this game, even if it's just, at halftime or 45 minutes? It still feels like, you're potentially putting, you know, your game at risk in some of these games that are, are key in order for us to land in the top four.
Yeah, you need Parra to play all 90 minutes on Saturday against Santos. I know
Yeah,
Santos had a really impressive win yesterday, but they're still the bottom team in the league.
and
I mean,
maybe even versus Puebla as well.
yeah, and also, I mean, you may have to think about throwing Tapia in for a game. I think you may
That's
have
as
to.
well.
Yeah, yeah,
You need
you're
to
gonna have
squeeze.
to.
We need to start squeezing more minutes out of more players. I think that's one of the biggest problems we've had. And I know as far as Tigres goes, what we've seen under Pauno, it was very limited options. Last season, it was just Chicha Sanchez. Marcelo, doesn't contribute 100% of his minutes, but he was contributing as well. I don't really consider him a youth player, just because of his maturity level and where he's at. But we need to
But
start
he
finding.
still gives us 60% of his minutes. I believe Ociel also maybe 40%
Osiel
of his
still does. Yeah,
yeah.
Garza still does. I'd like to see if Chewy has to come out in games. Like, I'd like to see Ordonez just be the automatic sub for that because Ordonez also fits that bill. I don't know how much of a percentage, but it's like maybe 80, 60 or 80, can't remember. But anything helps, right? Like you need all that you can get at this point, and we have like what, 6 games left. So
Yep.
you need to max those out in whatever way possible. So I think he's gonna have to throw Tapia in for a game. Maybe that's Saturday. It's gonna have to be against Santos or Puebla. Because it's not gonna happen against Pachuca, it's not gonna happen against Pumas, it's not gonna happen against America, and it's definitely not gonna happen against Rayados. Like,
Yeah.
let's just be real. So I thought the subs were fine. I actually liked Bada coming in at halftime. I feel like he should have started the whole game, but I liked that he came in to kind of give Carioca some rest ahead of tomorrow's game. The other subs were, I mean, Fulgencio was bad. The other two I thought were fine.
Yeah, Fulgencio is starting to obviously, a lot of people did not like him coming back after his Atlas stint, but we try to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he's starting to look like the worst, even worse than Uriel. Uriel is kind of seems like he's also under a new confidence with Pizarro, and seems like he might start playing good again. But Fulgencio, man, I don't know where his head is at. He was responsible for getting Bruneta's goal overturned for being, I mean, clearly offside and attempting for the ball. So it's just bad.
Yeah, I agree. Last point about the game from Friday. I think it's fair to say that Tuca Ball may be back. As mentioned in the outline, 791 passes and a 1-0 scoreline.
81% possession.
Mamma mia.
It's
Are we?
Querétaro, obviously,
Yeah.
but we kind of saw that, even at the Cincy game, it was close to 60% possession. And Pizarro has been mentioning this in his interviews that this is what he wants. He wants to go back to, being the type of team that is playing with the ball, not chasing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think he's right. Like, well, duh, I think he's right. But like, that's what Tigres is, and that's what we've always been, whether it's in different variations or not. Like, since 2011, or ever since Tuca came back before 2011, like that's been the thing, right? Like, you have the ball, you grind out results when you need to, hopefully you get more than one goal most of the time, but it's all about keeping the ball, playing with it, passing out of high presses, and doing what you can with that. So long may it continue. Again, it'll be more difficult with certain teams, but that was a nice little kind of precursor to hopefully what should be a really strong second half of the season with Guido being at the helm and kind of the shift in ideology and shift in play style. So ratings and chat, help us out here if you're watching. How would you evaluate Guido's first home game out of 10? Alfred, start with you.
I give him a solid 8.5. I mean, obviously it's Querétaro. At the same time, we only won 1-0. Wish it could have been more. But I mean, what more can you do with what you have at hand? He still has a lot of players that aren't back from injury, and I think we're still going to see the best of Pizarro's team once everybody comes back. It's a good start. It was obviously very good that we got the win on the 65th anniversary on his first game at home. You see the connection again with the crowd where, everybody's starting to sing again. Different from what we were seeing with Pauno, where even, the stands weren't even full. And now we got a, packed stadium again and everybody happy. It's Duca ball, man. It's what we want to see, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give it a 9.5. I gotta cut him a little bit of slack. As Alfred just mentioned, he doesn't have a full roster just yet. And the reason I gave him 9.5 is because I wasn't too satisfied with subs. I don't think this was a game for Fulgencio. But again, limited options. So I think he did really well with what he had, and I expect more.
Okay, well, I'll be the guy in the middle, and I'll say 9 even. 8.5, 9. I'll say, or 9.5. I'll say 9. Yeah, the subs were my favorite, but very similar to Edgar. I felt like, the team played strong. There's new energy. Not too much to really complain about, except I would have liked to see more goals personally. I know that we had a couple other chances here and there, and you should be scoring more against Querétaro, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But a win is a win is a win. So can't complain too much. Next league game is Saturday, early kickoff time against Santos. I believe it's a 6 p.m. kickoff time. Central
Well, it's
time.
7 p.m. in Mexico, but since we did daylight savings, so
Correct.
now it's 6 p.m. for us. Right?
Correct. But before then, we have a very important game tomorrow. Talk to us about that, Edgar.
That is right. Tigres will be hosting Cincinnati FC in the most passionate stadium in all of Mexico for the second leg of the CONCACAF Champions League. Currently, the score on aggregate is tied 1-1, with Tigres having the advantage as they were the ones who scored the away goal. Alfred actually broke down the scenarios for advancement. Alfred, why don't you lead us into that?
Yeah, so I mean, I joined the Cincy guys last week in a post-match pod that they had, and they pretty much are set on, we need to score or they need to score, if they want to have any chances, because obviously we got the better end of the deal here with being able to advance if we get a 0-0 draw at home. Any type of win, obviously we advance. A 1-1 draw and we'd be tied and we'd go into penalty kicks. But Cincinnati, in order for them to win, they would need to I'm sorry, in order for them to advance, they would need to win or score 2 or more goals in a draw. So we have the better end of the stick here, but it's not over till it's over. Hopefully the team is not overconfident. I trust that they won't be. Obviously, Pizarro and as well as Nahuel and some of the veterans in this team have been through this before in the past, and I'm pretty sure that they'll be able to talk about talk to the younger guys about making sure that they're concentrated and that it's 90 more minutes. It's not it isn't over yet, so we need to make sure that we get the win, just to be on the safe side.
I do want to correct you. It's extra time if it goes 1-1 tomorrow.
Is
Not
it? Okay.
yeah, not straight to penalties. It does go in the
Okay.
full extra time. So,
Perfect.
which that would be very interesting. Um, just kind of recapping Tuesday. By the way, great job on your appearance on that pod. By the way, Alfred, listener, if
Thank
you
you.
don't know
Thank
what
you.
we're talking about, go check out Cincy Soccer Talk and their episode that they had last Thursday about that first leg. And Alfred made an appearance for the first, like, I don't know, like almost half hour of that episode. You should go check it out. Obviously that was the first game of the Guido era. Ibanez scored. There was that weird goal that they scored in the third minute of the game
Third
or
minute.
whatever. But it kind of felt like we had control-ish to a degree after that. They definitely had a few decent chances. I know the ref was not super great that night for either team. I felt like he didn't call some stuff that he could have called.
Bar was not existent.
Yeah, super super weird. But for us, you're right. Like as you just said, we got the better end of the deal, getting that goal advantage. So here's the kind of report for tomorrow that we are aware of. Um, Ociel will be in the squad as far as we know, and so will Gorriaran. There is still a question mark over Romulo. I've kind of seen people say that he might be in. I've also seen people say that he's definitely out. So I don't know. I'm just gonna say question mark over Romulo. I have a feeling it's gonna be way too soon for him, and I would expect him to come back on Saturday. Um, Lainez will not be back. Gignac will obviously not be back, and Diego Reyes will not be back yet for this game either. So, with all that in mind, let's talk about that game. With those two inclusions coming back with Ociel and Gori, do we expect one of them to slide back into the starting lineup? Do we expect a similar shape to what we've seen the last couple days? What's kind of the vibe that we're thinking of what Guido will do as opposed to what he did last week?
How long have Gorri and Ociel been out? A month?
Uh,
3 weeks at least?
2 or
weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah, I don't see them starting. I do think that they'll be in the bench, and be ready to be subbed in when needed. But I don't think they'll be starting. I think Guido might go with the same lineup that we saw last Tuesday and Saturday.
I would agree. I watched a little bit of Cincinnati on Saturday. They played a league game. Not their best, but they got a win. Um, that kid, Lucas Arellano,
Orellana.
yeah, pretty solid. I know he's been dealing with some injury, and that's a guy that I know the Cincy guys have talked about being one of their better players and a guy that the fans really like. Super talented. I would imagine if he doesn't start, he'll play a big role tomorrow. I don't expect too many changes on their front either. I'm curious to see how open they will be at the beginning because they're the ones chasing the game. And to be chasing the game in a city that you did not have success in last year will be really interesting. And maybe that presents opportunities for us to, you know, get something on the counter or something like that. I don't know. But I'm really curious to see how the first 15, 20 minutes of the game goes tomorrow to see how Cincy specifically, how they come out and how desperate they are to score because, the sooner they score, if they score, like the crazier the game gets. But if we kind of set the tone the first 20 minutes, then I think it'll be really difficult for them.
From what the guys in Cincinnati were saying, they expect their team to come out, with high pressure, those first 15, 20 minutes, and they hope that they can get something out of that. Where if they feel like if they can't get a goal out of that high pressure in those first 15, 20 minutes, then it's going to be really uphill for them. So I believe it's the same. I mean, obviously, Pizarro is still going to be wanting us, to be dominant in the possession game. I don't think we'll be playing the counter. But since he's going to be chasing the game, we're going to get good chances of countering.
I agree. Predictions.
Oof. I think it might be a 2-1 game.
Okay.
So a 2-1 game would mean we'd be sweating, where if they score that second goal, it's there, they would pass, they would move on through. Oh man, that would make it a very Tigres like game, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh man. I'm gonna go with a 2-0. I feel confident in my boys.
I'm gonna say 1-0. I don't know. I just kind of feel like how the game starts will dictate how it goes, and if we score, I think if we do score, it'll be in the first half, and it'll just be one of those like really frustrating games for Cincy to try to like score. But I think we're defensively solid enough right now that I think we'll be okay. So it won't be pretty, but I think it'll be another 1-0 win. And for the sake of my personal streak of attending games at El Volcán and the good luck that I apparently bring to the team, I need us to win. I don't care what the scoreline is, but hopefully my attendance tomorrow will dictate a win. Fingers crossed. We'll see.
And I predict Ibanez to score again. He'll go 3 for 3.
Oh, all right. Look at you talking highly about Nico Ibanez. Has the
Shout out to
spirit?
Lou.
Yeah, has the spirit of Lou come upon you?
A little bit.
I love it. I love it. Okay, I think that's the majority of stuff on the men's side. Kind of flying by through this episode. If you're
One more thing on
yes,
the men's side, and this actually came out today, so it didn't really get put on the outline, but did you guys see who Pizarro has named as his 3 captains for the team?
oh yeah, we do need to talk about
That was
that.
good.
Yeah,
Talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
So earlier, or I think it was in an interview, maybe press conference, I'm not
In
sure
the
where.
Conca press conference, yeah.
Conca press conference, okay. So he announced that his 3 captains for his team are going to be Nando Gorriaran, Brunetta, and of course Angulo, who you already seen were in the captain's band.
Wow.
It's interesting, man. It's not the old guard. It's not a Nahuel. It's not a Guignac. That's really interesting. I kind of got to think about what I really want to say, but what do y'all think about it? Because I think that's fascinating to kind of really signify changing of the guard with some of these younger guys giving the
I think
opportunity.
it's the passing of the baton. I mean, it's a way of Guido, telling the new guys or the younger guys, hey, it's time to step it up and be leaders in this team. Because in the end, I mean, even if they don't have the armband, we know that Nahuel is still a leader in this team. We know that Carioca, Guignac, Aquino, they're leaders on and off the pitch, right? We know that's going to continue to happen for as long as they remain in the team, whether it's 6 months, a year, whatever's left in their contract, or if they renew. But these other guys who we've been saying that they need to step up and they need to start, being just the next man up. And I think he has the right choices at least in Brunetta and Gorriaran. They're pretty much going to be that column that our team is going to be based on for the next, I don't know, 5, 6, 8 years. So it's important for them to start, taking that responsibility.
Edgar, what do you think about it?
Yes, I mean, definitely surprising. We all, speculated that he would go for the obvious choices, but as Alfred mentioned, Nahuel is always going to be a protagonist on the field. He's always going to be a leader. Gignac as well. He's never needed the armband to lead the team and to, show face for the team. So I think it's very good, and I think he has really solid choices. I think the most surprising one was kind of Angulo, just because, he's never really been a player that, is on the radar, that has the reflectors on him. We see the leadership and the passionate aspect from both Brunetta and Gorriaran. From Angulo, not as much, but of course, we're not there in the locker room. We're not there in the practices, but that was Guido's partner in the back line. So I think that is someone that he trusts. And as he mentioned in his press conference, someone who has the values that align with him and what he wants the team to have.
I was intrigued that, not even in the sense that like Nahuel was not named one of those, or even Guignac. I was a little surprised that Aquino was not named one of those. I know he's part of the older regime, but also he's not one of those guys that's like definitely leaving in the summer. Like I think he could either leave in December or next summer. So from that aspect, I'm kind of surprised that he wasn't included in that to a degree. But I kind of get it. He's 35. It's whatever. I love the 3 selections though, especially Brunetta. This kind of needs
I
to
was
feel
surprised
like
by that one.
I am, but I'm happy with it because I feel like we need to like make it clear that this should be his team going forward, at least for the time being, until we like hopefully find a number 9 that becomes Guignac's true successor. This is who we're building the team around in some ways with Brunetta, and I think we're seeing that with what we just talked about earlier about him kind of changing positions and dropping a little bit deeper. I think Guido is being really intentional about how he's using him both on the field and off the field with his leadership, and just kind of basing what Tigres is and how the play operates around his skill set, because he is one of the best players in the league. We spent a lot of money on him. He was the MVP of the league last year or 2 years ago, whenever it was. Like, he is one of the top performers, and we need to start like building everything truly around him, and kind of giving him part of the captaincy helps in that, and it makes not only clear to us that like, hey, we really truly are building around this team, as opposed to like kind of wondering like, like, is this guy really it for Tigres? Are we going to sell him to the River or Boca? Like kind of those rumors that were happening a few months ago. Or are we going to build this new version of Tigres around him?
Around him.
Yeah. And between him and Gorriarán specifically, I think those are the 2 guys you're really starting to like push into that mold of like basing most of everything around. There's this term in soccer nowadays, that online specifically, about building the spine of the team, right? And Brunetta and Gorriarán are 1000% a part of that spine. Now there's still some other elements that may need to change here and there, because part of the spine includes the goalkeeper, and Nahuel, we love him to death, but also he's old, and maybe you're going to have to find somebody different if you don't go with Tapia to replace him, right? And then you definitely need a new number 9. Like, I know we just praised Nico, but like you need a true like superstar number 9, superstar forward to complement Brunetta, to kind of build off of what he could do. And that's part of the spine as well. But for now, you at least have those 2 pillars to build around, and everything else can kind of take care of itself outside of that. So big fan of that. Do we know like the ranking of like who's the number 1, who's the number 2, who's the number 3? Did he explain that at all, or are they just all kind of equals?
So he didn't give, or at least from what I saw, he didn't give like an exact ranking of who's going to be wearing the armband full time. So it'll be interesting to see, if Gorriarán, returns happy, healthy, 100%, if he'll carry on with that, or if we'll just see Angulo regularly wearing it. But I think they are still, regardless, 3 very solid options.
I have a feeling Gorriarán is number 1.
Yeah, I agree.
Him or Angulo. Mainly because Angulo's been here the longest of those 3. By about a year or 2. But I don't know. It's all interesting to me. That it on the men's side?
Yep, that's all I got, unless you guys have anything else.
Nope. Let's talk about Las Amazonas and the fact that they keep scoring like crazy.
Yeah, I think now it's officially safe to say that they are back, because they are on a streak of 5 straight wins.
And they're now back up to 3rd or 4th?
They're currently at 4th in league standings. I know it was looking a little scary For a couple jornadas, they were 5th and 6th, and honestly, it was one of the more rough starts, if not the roughest start that we've seen in the history of the Amazonas. But they're back. They were able to hit Necaxa with a 4-0 win and a very spectacular goal.
Yes. I mean, standouts, obviously, Jennifer, unbelievable. Also, Jenny Hermoso turning into like the assist queen was not something I had on my bingo card this season, but props to her because she's just serving goals up on a platter for her teammates. Themby scored. Just
Ovalle scored, but then it was ruled an own goal.
yeah. So our attackers are just in great shape right now. The fact that it's working with just kind of how when you look at it on paper, it's like, okay, it feels like you have like 3 or 4 strikers sometimes on the field at the same time, but somehow it's
Mayor
working.
now is a CDM.
Yeah, like just super interesting how Pedro's got them going. But I'm impressed, man. Like, and they look happier. They look like back to their old selves again, for the most part. The body language is better. The play is obviously better. It kind of feels like the Tigres femenil that we really know and really love, back on the forefront. Other thoughts about the game?
No, I mean you mentioned Jennifer Hermoso, who she isn't part of the old Tigres team that we expected to see, but she is a World Cup personality where she hadn't shown, at least not in Tigres, who we had expected her to be until now. Like now we're seeing the Jennifer Hermosa that we were supposed to get, and I'm glad. I'm all for it. I think just like on the men's side, confidence has everything to do with it. And now the girls are playing with a lot of confidence. They have all the right attitude, running for every ball. It's just amazing to see. It's great to see again, and I think slowly but surely those stands, we're gonna start seeing fans again in those stands.
Me on Friday, despite the fact that it's going to be like almost 100 degrees in Monterrey on Friday. Dios mío! Not excited about that. But I do like femenil games because the atmosphere is really fun. And also, there's really no excuse to not go because the prices to get in is like stupid cheap. Like, I don't get why more people don't go. Like, it's 200 pesos max.
It's the having the games always on Fridays and Mondays. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's the weird times for sure. But also, it's like finance should not be like a thing. Like, you can get
no,
it for 100 pesos.
yeah.
That's a burger from Carl's Jr. or you know, chicharrones de Mendes. Like, get in there. It's not that hard. This is for everybody who visits Monterrey or who is in Monterrey. Um, Edgar, let's kind of look ahead to Friday. Do we expect more of the same from this team? I don't know where Santos is currently in the league standings, on the feminine side, but do you expect more of the same from the girls as they kind of continue to figure out Pedro ball?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as we've mentioned, they're finally getting that confidence back. I think Jenny Hermoso is finally stepping into that protagonist role that we expected when she was signed. Obviously, there were other factors. Mila Martinez, playing her out of position, not playing her at all, benching her. So, yeah, we're seeing a lot better. And, Santos is 17th in the league for femenil, if I recall correctly. Yeah, for the league. So, men's and women's are not doing too hot.
And they're on a 5-game losing streak. So complete opposite of our team.
Okay, well, hopefully it's a goleada. And then the game after that is on Monday. Quick turnaround. They play Friday and then they play Monday night against Mazapan Femenil. So
You're gonna be on both. Are you gonna be on both? When do you come back?
Tuesday.
Oh, so are you going also to that one?
I'm gonna try to.
Yeah. Hey, no excuse. 100 pesos, you said.
True. The excuse will be, will my abuelos want to go with me? Gotta
Go
get them
solo,
out.
bro. Solo.
Yeah, true. I guess that's true. I really don't have much else right now. Just because I feel like we don't need to get super in the weeds with them because we're all trying to figure out what they look like under this new manager, and we're seeing a lot of positive results right now and a lot of positive play, and there's nothing really too much to criticize.
No, just more positive changes. I mean, we've also seen Tatiana Flores getting more minutes under Pedro, that's been
Yes.
another positive.
And
That's
she
been
looks good, man.
yeah, and she looks like she's
Oh yeah, a
been working.
baller.
Yeah,
Better than her brother in the men's side.
yeah, he's going through a little bit of a rough patch. I don't know what's going on there, but
Yeah.
he's declined a bit since Siboldi's departure.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But kudos to her. She hadn't had an opportunity for like basically a year, and it kind of felt like, did we sign her for her footballing ability, or do we sign her because of name and marketing? And now we're starting to see her play, and it's like, oh, she can dribble like really, really well, and she's got like
She's got something.
there's some flair to her game that really not a lot of other players on the roster have. It's like a lot of our attackers have flair, but her flair is different. Like when you look at how she plays, something about it is just more appealing to the eye, like the way that she dribbles and the way that she like attacks players like one on one. I think it's interesting. So there's a player in there. How do we unlock more of that potential? Who knows? That's for Pedro to figure out. So we'll see. Okay, a couple more things. We're gonna go from the vault real quick, and then we gotta talk about some stuff going on for next week that we're really excited to kind of share with you guys. Not entirely, but we're kind of tease it a little bit. Let's talk from the vault. Oh, hold on. Threedger! I was wondering where you were. Golly, is it because of her Euro experience?
Could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Possibly. I mean, I know for a while she was with Real Oviedo, same time Marcelo was. Before then, was it Chelsea Femenil Youth Division?
That sounds right.
I genuinely do not recall, but I know one of my like kind of perplexions with the signing was she was a regular with the youth divisions for the national team, and then she comes to Tigres Femenil and kind of just doesn't exist. It seemed like a really strange signing, but now under Pedro we
But
do.
she was still getting her call-ups.
Yeah,
Even not playing with Tigres.
Yeah, she was still getting her call-ups, and at least me personally, it's a little bit more tricky to find those youth femenil matches for the national team. So I really just had highlights and that to base my analysis off of, but now it's starting to kind of make more sense.
Yeah. Thank you, Threedger, for confirming that it was Chelsea. This is why we appreciate you and your input. Okay. From the vault, what we got?
All right, guys. So March 5th, 10 years ago, 2015, was that game that we had at El Monumental versus River Plate, where Jofre Guerrón scored a goal.
Oh yeah, in the group stage.
In the group stage, right? I think we ended up tying that game if I remember correctly. But right. I mean, in the end, it was a great game. It was our first time playing at a Monumental. I know that a lot of Libres y Locos went down there, and it was really exciting. And even for us or whoever got to watch it, on TV, it's just amazing to see our team, hold their own over there. At least that time. Can't say the same in the final.
True.
All right. March 6th, 29 years ago, Tigres won the first cup, as in the Mexican Cup. Not a cup, but just the one title, the Mexican Cup. And it was won in 1996, I believe, with Ciboldi was part of that team as well. So another reason why, like you mentioned earlier, it was strange that, he wasn't included in the video. I mean, he was in that, and he got that title when he was a player. He went to relegation and then came back with the team. So he was key player in that. And then he also made us champion last year, or a couple years ago. So, but that was 29 years ago when they first got the first cup. March 8th, 3 years ago, we lost Tomas Boy. Rest in peace
In
to the
paz
great
descanse.
Jefe Boy. And then last but not least, also March 8th, but 18 years ago, just a reminder of Palmera Rivas, who was really, really good at Clásicos for us. In Clásico 86 against Rayados, we won 3-2 with 2 goals from Palmera Rivas. And I believe
Oh
that was
wow.
like his, yeah, that was like his debut game at a Clásico. It was back when he was like still like a youngster coming off the bench and he got his opportunity to play. Um, but I mean, obviously throughout his career, how many other times did he not, show up in important games for us?
Wow. Wow. I didn't know he scored 2 goals in a Clásico.
Yeah,
Wow. That's
there
awesome.
it is
I got one
from the
more
book.
for you.
All right.
March 12th of last year. Speaking of Conca, we had a round of 16 tie, second leg at home. This was against Orlando, and we won 4-2 thanks to goals from Marcelo Flores, APG off a penalty, Sebastian with a beautiful goal in the 81st minute, and then the course of Pedro Gallese with an own goal. But I can't remember who shot it in the 68th minute. That was also the game that Rafa Carioca got a really weird, strange red card that ultimately would end up partially costing us the next round
Oh,
against
man.
Columbus.
Yeah.
But I remember being at that game. I was in Zona de Gol Sur, and I had a great time. It was a fun game to be there for. So hopefully
Hopefully you watch another 4-1 game tomorrow.
that would be awesome. That would be awesome. I would love that so much. All right. Last but not least, before we get out of here, we're going to talk to you guys about next week. We've got some really interesting uh, pieces of content, I'll say, going into next week. As we know, next week is international break. So we decided, how do we fill the time? How do we get more data stuff out to you guys? We'll obviously talk about what happens this week with Conca, with the league. Maybe we'll talk about this friendly in Austin for 5 minutes. I don't know. But there's some other things that we are currently working on. Um, Alfred, Edgar, would you guys like to kind of tease the audience as to what we got in the works?
Yeah, so we always try to invite out fans to join the pod, conversation like this, or do our one-on-one interviews where usually Arnoldo will get to know you guys. But now we've got a couple more high-profile guests coming on, so that'll be really exciting. I don't know if we should drop any names just yet, but please be on the lookout.
I think we gotta keep that a secret. Cat's got to stay in the bag for
I'll
that
give
one.
one clue, and one of them is a former Tigres player from the 90s. So to those listening or watching, obviously this is an English pod, so must be a player that speaks English. But it's a former Tigres player from the 90s. That's one of our potential guests.
And that's all we'll say. The other thing is a fun little thing going on with a with a friend of the show, just a guy who loves soccer and a guy who cares about soccer, specifically in the Houston community, a guy that we've mentioned a few times here on the show, Mr. Glenn Davis over with ESPN in Houston. Uh, he's got a little event going on. Alfred, care to explain about that?
Not exactly entirely sure. Did get the invite from Arnoldo. We'll definitely try to be there and try to be the presence of Tigres for them, for the community. Obviously, he's trying to push, just the soccer community in Houston a lot more. And he's having an event next week that we'll try to be a part of.
Yeah, it's like a live event situation, if I remember correctly. So, all you guys in Houston, be on the lookout for that. I'm sure Arnoldo will post about it um, when he's able
Once he
to.
gets back from his vacay.
Yeah, if you guys didn't know, bro's out here drinking wine every 5 minutes out in Madrid. Um,
Having the time of his life.
exactly, exactly. So, hopefully the pod will be 15,000 times better because he'll actually be back hosting the show instead of me next week.
I
But
heard
that's where he's at.
I heard he's also trying to convince Brahim Diaz to come over. We'll see how that goes.
Oh, that'd be great. That would be great. He keeps on the lookout. That's funny. I mean, does he want to bring Camavinga too? I mean, I'll take a few of those. I mean, I'm not a Real Madrid guy, but I'll take a couple of those guys off their hands if they don't. You know what? Luka Modric isn't gonna. Well, I guess maybe he does want to stay at Real Madrid forever, but why not, man? A couple seasons at Tigres, kind of hang out in the midfield.
He plays like he's 29, so I mean, hey, you want to come down to Liga MX, catch up with some former teammates? Why not?
Exactly, exactly. I think that'd be fun. So, anywho, all that to say, keep your eyes peeled to the Laut Times Twitter account, to all of our Twitter accounts. I'm sure we'll repost whatever gets posted as we get you guys some more content next week. So prepare for 2 episodes next week. That's all I'll say. With special guests that you guys I think will hopefully like. Anything else before we get out of here, gents?
That's all I got. But
Prediction for the Santos game.
Yes.
All right.
Man, had Santos not beat Leon yesterday, I would have said like 4-0. But now I'm a little bit hesitant. Is Tano their coach? Did I see
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
Okay.
the coach now.
That's so funny. I mean, I think we'll win. We're at home. They're not very good. 2-0. Sure.
I'm with you. I think it has to be 2-0.
Romulo will be back Saturday. I'm calling it now. That'll help a ton.
I think contrary to tomorrow, which I think that we can potentially win with more abundancy, I think Saturdays is going to be tighter. I actually think Saturdays would probably be a 1-0.
Okay.
You think Mr. Tan Ortiz is going to put up a bigger fight than Cincinnati?
Yeah, no, definitely. I do.
Okay.
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 Dennis, work your magic. In the stands.
True.
Now I'm nervous.
Now, I mean, I still got to buy my tickets for that. That's the tough part about league games, as we all know, is that there's never, just tickets out in the open like that. You got to go secondary market.
I got the hookup.
True.
DM me.
True. It was really easy to get tickets for tomorrow, like super easy, because it was all, general public sale, and I didn't get platea like I teased that the other day, but I got close to it, so close enough.
All right.
But yeah, it's always a little bit more difficult because it's more expensive, and Boleto Móvil has made it easier to go to games, I feel like, but it's still a higher price point to go to a league game. So
Yeah.
But I'll be there. I'll make it happen. Don't worry about it. All good?
Please be there so we can get. You're gonna be 4 games in there, 4 wins, man.
I hope so.
No pressure. No pressure.
No pressure at all. I just needed I mean, I love soccer, don't get me wrong, but I was kind of hoping I'd be there for some baseball as well, but it's not the start of the league season for the Mexican league yet, so it's okay. I'll do 4 trips to the El Volcán and call it a day, call it a week. No complaints about that. All right, let's get out of here. Look at that. Hour and 10 minutes. Not too bad. Not too shabby. Everybody who watched and listened live with us, thanks for being here. We need more of you in the chat. That's all I got to say. don't be shy. Don't be scared. We love to see you on the chat, commenting stuff, giving off your takes, your predictions. Give us what you got. Come hang out in the chat. If you're listening on podcast later, share, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed on Spotify and Apple yet, do so. Leave us a review and a rating. Goes a long way. And don't forget to follow Loud Times on Twitter, on Insta, on YouTube, on Facebook, on lots of other places, I'm sure. Follow all of us. I'll have our handles in the show notes for our Twitter handles at least. And again, be on the lookout for next week with our plans for what we got going on. Until next time, arriba la U. We'll see you guys later. Alfred, Edgar, thanks
Thanks for listening.
thanks for joining me.